Hi guys, and welcome back to I Speak English. My name's Hayley, and in this lesson today we're going to be taking a look at some idiomatic expressions specifically for your Cambridge C1 exam, and they're going to be really useful in your speaking exam. So I'm going to show you example exam questions for part 1, 2, 3 and 4, and I'm going to show you how you can use these idiomatic expressions to answer the questions. So they're really common expressions that people use all the time in everyday speech, and they should be applicable to quite a few parts of your exam, like part 2, part 3, part 1, part 4. So you should be able to use them, pretty frequently anyway. And of course, the more expressions you use, the higher marks you're going to get from your examiner. But before we take a look at that, please do make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. And if you find this video useful, please do give it a like. It helps it to get to more people so that they can get some preparation for their C1 exam as well. So click the subscribe button and hit the bell so that you get a notification from me every time I upload a new video. New long form videos are every Saturday, and we get shorts every single day, so you can learn English for free whenever you like. And with that being said, we're going to take a look at our idiomatic expressions. Let's get started. Alright, so as I said before, idiomatic expressions are really important in your Cambridge C1 exam. Examiners expect to hear them. Even if you just use 1 or 2, it's a really good way to get higher marks for vocabulary and also for communicative achievement as well. So we're going to take a look at our first idiomatic expression, which is a blessing in disguise. So this is a really common idiom, actually. I use this fairly often when I'm talking. A blessing in disguise is like something that seems bad that's actually good. So at first you think this is a really bad situation, but then it turns out that you get something positive or like a benefit from it. So for example, you could use this in a sentence to say, losing my job was a blessing in disguise. I make way more money working for myself now. Okay, so you lost your job, something negative. You think, oh my God, what's happened? But then you end up making more money. So it actually is something positive that comes from a negative. That's a blessing in disguise. We would not use this to describe a person. You would only use it to describe something, like a situation. Situation is a blessing in disguise. Failing an exam might be a blessing in disguise. Losing your job, breaking up with someone. All of these negative things may give you something positive, which is a blessing in disguise. So let's take a look how you could use it in an exam, like an example of an exam question. So in part 1, by the way, these exam questions are real. I've taken these from the Cambridge Handbook for Teachers. I'll put a link to that in the description. It's completely free. You can download it from the Cambridge website. Check the description for a link there. All of these questions come from that handbook. So they're real questions by Cambridge that you could get asked. Okay. So our first question is, have you celebrated anything recently? So you could reply, for example, actually I missed my graduation ceremony due to illness, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise because I ended up spending a really meaningful day with my grandparents. All right, so there's just one example of how you could use it. So something that seemed bad that actually turned out to be good. Okay, I've got another example for you here, part 4 question. Have you learned from a bad experience? Okay, so you could say, for example, definitely, failed internship felt like a setback at first, but it was a blessing in disguise because I found a career I enjoy more. Okay, so there you go, just a few examples in context in the exam. Hopefully you're clear on what that means and how to use it. So again, it's always a situation is a blessing in disguise because, and then kind of explain what happened in the situation. Okay. Alright, so that's our first one. Our second one is to go the extra mile. Again, quite a common one. It just means to make extra effort, or like more effort than is expected of you. You go the extra mile, for example. He's a great employee. He always goes the extra mile for his customers. So if you work hard and, you do more than your customers, in this case, expect, okay, then you would go the extra mile. Again, how would we use this in the exam? Let's take a look at some exam questions. Again, this is a real exam question. I took it from the handbook for teachers. So here we've got your 3 photos. So we've got different events here. And one of your questions is, how difficult might these events be to organise? Okay, so we've got a concert, a fashion show, and a tennis match. An example answer here with go the extra mile. Planning a concert usually requires organisers to go the extra mile, especially when they're coordinating with local community to avoid disturbing people. Okay, so it requires people to do more work or do extra work. So you would always say that somebody goes the extra mile. Okay, so they do extra work. All right, so there's an example part 2. Next one, part 1. This is a really common question. You'll probably always get asked this in your part 1. What do you enjoy about learning English? Okay, how could you answer that using go the extra mile? Let's take a look. You could say, for example, I like how challenging it is. I always try to go the extra mile by watching TV series or reading articles outside of my English lessons. Okay, so I do extra work, or I do more than is expected of me outside my lessons. What about you? What do you do outside? Do you go the extra mile with your English outside your lessons? Hopefully you do. If you're watching this video, then maybe you do. Also, if you want to practice any of these, leave me a little comment, write me a comment or a sentence using these idiomatic expressions, and I'll correct you. I'm more than happy to correct you if you want to have a little practice. Because idioms, they're easy enough to learn, but it's always more difficult to put stuff like this into practice. So I'd be really happy if you just left a comment practicing, and I can help you out that way. Speaking of practice, if you do struggle to practice with speaking, I know a lot of people do, they don't often have the opportunity to speak in English if you don't live in an English-speaking country. There is a great app that I recommend my students to use. It's called 5 Minute English, and the entire point of this app is to practice speaking. You can use it for the Cambridge C1 exam. It does have Cambridge C1 exam questions. You can also use it for general English as well. But the idea of the app is that you basically speak for up to 5 minutes. You can talk for, but if you're practicing for the C1 exam, it'll probably be like 1-minute tasks or 2-minute tasks. You can speak for up to 5 minutes. You answer an exam question and the app records you while you're talking. And then it will translate that into text once you're done, and it will give you automatic grammar corrections and vocabulary corrections as well. So it's really good for seeing where you're making like repetitive errors and stuff like that. So it's a really good idea just to kind of download it and use it for a month or 2 before your exam, just to get some speaking practice in. I'll put a link in the description. Take a look at the description. I'll put a link up here as well. Click that. It's only available on Google Play at the minute, so if you've got Apple you can't download it. But take a look, you can download it for free, and there's a free trial as well, so you can see how it works, and if you find it useful, you can subscribe to it later if you like. So that's there if you want to practice a bit of speaking. We're now going to practice a bit more idiomatic expressions. We're going to do one more, and then I'm going to test you on the 3 that we've already looked at, and then we'll keep looking at some more. So this one, another super common one, once in a blue moon. You might have heard of this before. It just means rarely or not often. So when you're speaking and you want to say the word rarely or not very often, just try to switch that in your brain and use this idiom instead, once in a blue moon. You could say, for example, we live in different cities, so I only see him once in a blue moon. Okay, I only see him rarely. I only see him once every so often. But once in a blue moon, get you a bit more points because it's an idiomatic expression. How would we use this in the exam? Let's take a look at some exam questions. So we've got a part 3 question here. Again, it's a real question. I took this from the handbook that's in the description. Let's take a look at this question. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of communicating in these ways? We've got giving a lecture, having a video conference, chatting online, writing a letter, and having a face-to-face meeting. So obviously in part 3, you need to discuss with your partner now. You need to discuss these options together. If you're not sure, I think I do have a video, I'll link it up here. I have got a video for part 3 speaking. If you want to take a look at it, you can click up there. But for now, let's take a look at how to use once in a blue moon to answer this question. For example, you could say, I reckon that handwritten letters aren't very convenient anymore. People only use them once in a blue moon for something special. It's easier to send an email. Okay, so people only use them rarely. They don't do it very often. They don't write letters very often. Okay, so really simple to use. Just switch the word rarely in your vocabulary for once in a blue moon, and then you can use it. So that's part 3. Part 4 question, should families communicate more? If I asked you that, how would you use it? Okay, you could say, I think so. Some families only sit down together once in a blue moon, which is a shame. And I think it's better to be close to your family than distant. Okay, so if you want to use the word rarely, switch it out and use once in a blue moon. All right, time for a test. Okay, so we had 3 idioms there. We had a blessing in disguise, go the extra mile, once in a blue moon. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to complete this sentence with one of those idiomatic expressions. So our sentence is, my teacher really, she stays after class to help us with assignments. Okay, what do you think fits that gap? Blessing in disguise, go the extra mile, once in a blue moon. You've got 5 seconds. Have a think. Off you go. All right, your 5 seconds are up. What do you reckon? What fits that gap, do you think? My teacher really goes the extra mile. She stays after class to help us with assignments. Okay, so she really does a lot for us. She does a lot more work than we expect her to do. She stays after class, helps us with our assignments. Okay, obviously we needed to change go to goes to match the subject teacher. Needs to be in third person. Right, so there's our test. Let me know if you got it right in the comments. All right, next one. Hit the nail on the head. Another super common one. I say this quite a lot. This is really, really useful in speaking part 3 and speaking part 4, because we normally say this as a response to someone, as a response to something someone said, if you agree with it, or if you think that that person's made a good point. Okay, so it literally means I agree, or like you're completely right. That's exactly right. That's what this means. So for example, let's say someone says something to you. In response, you would say, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I completely agree with what you're saying. So really, really good for speaking part 3, like we said. So this is the same question that we just looked at. Advantages, disadvantages of communicating. Okay, again, giving a lecture, having a video conference, chatting online, writing a letter, having a face-to-face meeting. So how would we use hit the nail on the head in this context? So let's say your partner in the exam says to you, I don't really think there's much difference between a video conference and a face-to-face meeting, to be honest, but they're both way more efficient than writing a letter. And then you would respond, absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head there. And then you would kind of add a bit more to their point. You would extend their point a bit more. Okay. Yeah. Speaking part 3, one thing that the examiners are looking for is that you extend your partner's points. You kind of add on to what you're saying so that you deepen the discussion a bit, rather than just agreeing and disagreeing. Okay. But really easy way to just say, I agree. You've hit the nail on the head. Okay, so that's the main way I would use it in the exam. We'll take a look at another one now. To be on the same wavelength, again, really good for part 3 and part 4, because, yeah, again, you would use it in response to someone if you agree with them, or if you kind of think in a similar way to them. But you can also use it to describe other situations as well, not only that you agree with the person you're talking to. You can use it in different contexts. For example, let's take a look. I think it's important in a relationship to be on the same wavelength as your partner. Okay, so I think it's important to understand your partner well, or to think in a similar way to them. So you can use it to describe another situation, but you can also use it in response to someone who's talking to you. So if you get the question, are communication skills important for work? You could respond, absolutely. Being on the same wavelength improves collaboration, and it avoids conflict with your colleagues. So that's one way to use it. In part 3, as I said, you can use it as a response to someone. So we're going to use the same example as before. Your partner is saying, oh, I don't really think there's much difference between a video conference and a face-to-face meeting, etc., etc. And if you agree, you could say, yeah, I think we're on the same wavelength with that one. So yeah, we think in a similar way. I agree. So remember, in your exam, you don't want to keep repeating the same vocabulary, saying, yeah, I agree, yeah, I agree, yeah, I agree. So I'm giving you different ways here, synonyms, paraphrases, to say I agree. I'm on the same wavelength, or we're on the same wavelength. You've hit the nail on the head. Okay, any of these you can use as a synonym for I agree. All right, and let's look at one more before I test you. To cost an arm and a leg. Again, very common idiom. I've used this quite a lot myself, just in everyday conversation. This just means when something's very expensive. So it's very easy to kind of switch this one out and use it as an idiom. Whenever you want to say very expensive, just say cost an arm and a leg instead. And you just sound a bit more natural, and again, you'll get more points in the exam. So if you want to use it in a conversation, you could say, for example, I'd love to have English lessons every day, but it would cost me an arm and a leg. True, English lessons can be quite expensive. By the way, I am available for lessons if you would need any extra lessons. I do group lessons. I've got a C1 group course. I'll put the link up here for you. And I also give individual lessons as well. So take a look at my my website there if you're interested in having any lessons with me, and I'll be happy to help you. We're going to take a look at how to use this in an exam now. So part 1 exam question, you might get asked, do you like travel? And you could say, yeah, I love traveling, but I don't do it much. Because nowadays the flight tickets cost an arm and a leg. Okay? Flight tickets are really expensive. Which is true. Again, everything's really expensive these days. Everything costs an arm and a leg. Alright, back to our part 2 question. So how difficult might these events be to organise? Okay, let's take a look at a response for this one. So you could say, to be honest, I think both of these events would cost an arm and a leg to organise, but then they would make the money back from selling the tickets anyway. Alright, so there you go. Pretty easy to use that one. You just switch very expensive for cost an arm and a leg. And it means the same. Alright, another test. Let's see if you were paying attention. So our idioms were hit the nail on the head, be on the same wavelength, and cost an arm and a leg. So let's have a look. Our sentence is, that comment really, it summed up how everyone was feeling. Okay, I'll give you 5 seconds to complete that sentence with one of these idioms. Off you go. Right, your 5 seconds are up. Let me know in the comments what you think is correct. What do we think? That comment really hit the nail on the head, summed up how everyone was feeling. Okay, so it was exactly right. It was, perfectly appropriate, and it was exactly what everyone was feeling. Hit the nail on the head. Alright, next up, our last 3 idiomatic expressions for this video. We've got a double-edged sword. Okay, very useful in the exam. You can also use this in writing as well, because it's not like super informal. So it would be nice to use in an essay, or a report or a proposal. You could use that as well. So if something is a double-edged sword, it means it has kind of both positive and negative sides or effects. Okay, for example, how would you use it in a conversation? And technology is a double-edged sword. It helps me, but it also distracts me at the same time. Okay, so it has a positive side and it has a negative side. Double-edged sword. So you would say that something is a double-edged sword. You would not use this for a person. You can't say somebody is a double-edged sword, just something. All right, how to use it in the exam then? If you get a part 4 question, do people spend too much time on social media? You could say, yeah, far too much. Social media is a double-edged sword because on one hand it connects us, but on the other it causes stress and anxiety. Okay, so again, positive and negative effects. So that's part 4 question. And part 1 question, do you like using the internet to keep in touch? You could say yes, but it's a double-edged sword. It's convenient, but it can also make conversations kind of shallow. Okay, so that's the way we use it. We always say something is a double-edged sword, and then you give the positive and negatives of that double-edged sword, or that thing. Right, next up, to be on the fence. This is a really great one. Again, very common and very easy to use in Speaking Part 3, possibly Speaking Part 4 as well, but Speaking Part 3, it's going to be really useful because it means when you are undecided between 2 options. When you're like, I don't know which one to go for, you're on the fence. Okay, so you can literally say, I'm not sure, I'm on the fence about that. Okay. Ooh, there's a mistake there. Sorry, that should say I'm not sure, not I am sure. I'm not sure. I'm on the fence about that, is what you could say. For example, I said part 3. This was our part 3 question again. What are the advantages and disadvantages of communicating in this way? To answer this question, which is the most efficient way of communicating, you could say, for example, I'm on the fence between a face-to-face meeting and a video conference, although I think video conference could be more convenient because you don't have to leave your house. All right, so you don't know, you're undecided between these 2 things, right? All right, and part 1, do you ever wish you were rich and famous? Again, this is a genuine question from the exam paper that I took. You can say, honestly, I'm on the fence. It's like saying, I don't know, right? Honestly, I'm on the fence. The lifestyle sounds exciting, but I hate the lack of privacy. Let me know how you would answer this question in the comments. Write me a little comment. Try to use some of the idioms if you can, and I'll give you a correction. Meanwhile, we're going to look at our final idiom for this video, and it's not my cup of tea. Okay, very British, very common. This is just meaning when you just don't like something. You don't like it, you don't enjoy it, it's just not your cup of tea. Okay. For example, I prefer a quiet night in. Clubbing isn't really my cup of tea. Okay, so I don't really enjoy clubbing. How would we use it in the exam? Let's say part 1, they ask you, what free time activity do you enjoy? You could say, I'm keen on hiking because I love being outside, but things like shopping malls are not my cup of tea. Okay, I just don't enjoy it, it's not fun. So again, instead of just saying I don't like, which is kind of simple vocabulary, just use it's not my cup of tea instead, and you'll get a higher mark. And let's take a look at one more example for part 2 again. So we've got what might people find interesting about these events? This is your second question from the part 2 exam task. You could say, for example, the tennis event might be interesting for some, but it might not be other people's cup of tea. So you can say it's not my cup of tea, it's not his cup of tea, not her cup of tea, or you could also use people's cup of tea as well, and that makes sense. All right, one more test before we go then. This is your last test of our last 3 idioms. So we had a double-edged sword, on the fence, and not my cup of tea. And this is your phrase that you need to complete. He's something about adopting a dog. He loves animals, but travels a lot. Okay, you've got 5 seconds to complete this sentence. Write your answer in the comments. Off you go. Alright, you're out of time. What did you put? He's on the fence about adopting a dog. He's undecided. He's not sure about adopting a dog. He loves animals, but he travels a lot. Alright, there you go. There are your idioms for the Royal Cambridge C1 speaking exam. If you found this video useful, please do give it a like. It really helps it just to get to more people and to kind of let me know that I'm doing the right thing so that I can make some more videos for you. So give it a like, make sure you're subscribed. If you have any questions about the Cambridge C1 exam, let me know in the comments and I'll answer you. If you have any suggestions of videos that you would like to be made, again, let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you. And if you need any more help with the Cambridge C1 exam or you'd like to take a lesson with me, you can go to www.englishclassesonline.co.uk or you can contact me via email. You'll find my email on that website as well. Alright, that's all from me for today and I'll see you in another video soon.